Hey guys, I'm so excited today. We have a special guest in the name of Karol Brown. Let me point this way. And she's joining us as part of our ongoing conversation at the League of Experts. As you know, it's our calling to support thought leaders in creating, connecting, converting, and building community around their thought leadership. And we have an excited conversation set aside for us today. Um, as you know, in this conversation, we always want to know what people are up to, how they can serve more boldly, and more importantly, how they can create a better world for us to live in. So, Karol Brown, she is a professional storyteller, teaching artist, keynote speaker, and she's also a legacy coach and author. One of her pet projects, and more importantly, her business, her company is called Brown Tones Production LLC, with over 20 years of storytelling experience, communication skills developed through being an active member of Toastmasters International. So she's a good speaker, right? So Karol, welcome. Where are you joining us from? What part of the world as we start this conversation off?
Well, good morning from Dayton, Ohio. That's where I
Ohio's in the
am.
house. All
Yes,
right.
I am.
All right. So Karol, so as we talk about this conversation, tell me, in it's a language you use a lot in our community. What's your superhero?
What is my superhero? Okay. Well, first of all, for over 20 years, I have been focused on Harriet Tubman.
Okay.
Okay. I portray Harriet Tubman and
Mm,
I share her life stories. So she is the image of my superhero that I try to emulate.
mm,
Right. She was a visionary. She was a strong woman who overcame all obstacles that were in her way. Once I share her story and I portray her as a 90-plus-year-old woman near the end of her life
mm-hmm.
to show that where she came from, a young girl born a slave, to a iconic legend that we still celebrate over 100 years after her death. So my superhero, what I try to do is be a visionary and manifest positivity in the world as Harriet Tubman did.
Right. Okay, beautiful. As you mentioned, Harriet Tubman, we all know of Harriet Tubman in so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we know she was born in 1913. She's an African American abolitionist, a political activist. We know about her work in even working as a spy for the Union Army during the American Civil War, and all these things that we would traditionally learn and know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I want to challenge, even as we're having this conversation, like Martin Luther, there's a lot of emphasis on his political work, his activism, really moving the national conversation. But there's a part of his story, maybe in Harriet Tubman, you may want to share with us, that is seldom magnified or discussed. So, for instance, with Martin Luther, you don't hear the title of he was a pastor,
Mm-hmm.
not just a minister, not just a rep, but a pastor. He had a function of feeding a flock through his messages as in a pastoral function.
Yes.
On the national scale, we hear of him as an activist. We hear of his national work, but not, that local work, heart to heart with so many people. So I want you to share with us, what about Harriet Tubman that we don't know or is usually downplayed in her life?
Okay. So when I started studying about Harriet Tubman, I learned she was born around 1821, 22.
Mhm.
She died in 1913
Right.
on
Correct.
March 10th, which is known as Harriet Tubman Day for
Correct.
me. So Harriet Tubman, like you mentioned with Martin Luther King, Dr. King was a person in the community
Hmm.
who was very, very active in the community. So her whole life after she was freed herself was helping the people that she left behind, her
Hmm.
family, not just her siblings and her parents, but her community was her family.
Right.
And once she was able to bring people to freedom, she felt obligated to take care of them. So
Mm,
she was taking people after they passed the fugitive slave law in about 1855. She had to take people all the way to Canada
mm,
so that they would definitely be free and had no chances of someone coming back all the way to the edge of the this country and snatching them back and taking them back to slavery. So that's what they could have done.
so
But
all the way to cold Canada?
you have to take them all the way to cold Canada. Exactly. And with that was the challenge of the code because these are people coming from Maryland
Yes.
and they're doing a winter in Canada first year. So no food. She had to take care of these people. She went and asked the community. She would beg for help for other people. She brought her
Mm.
parents there eventually, and her mother said, "This is the coldest place on earth." So she was all about taking care of other people. She was able to later on move to Auburn, New York, where she was able to purchase property. And
Mm-hmm.
there she still took care of people. She had
Mm.
a home for anybody who needed some place to come and didn't have a place to be. She brought them in to her house and she took care of them. She would go out and raise money the best way she could. She was a public speaker. People don't realize that. She
Mm.
was an abolitionist on the abolitionist talking circuit. So she would go out and tell her story and she would get paid for that. And then she would be able to have the funds to help support her family and anybody else that needed help.
Beautiful. And, even as we move forward in this conversation, let's talk about, the role of women and how you see that as a key theme in your work. As you talk about, Harriet Tubman's work, one of the key things she did was she was involved in the women's suffrage movement and worked alongside, suffrage leaders such as I think it was Susan B. Anthony. So,
Mhm.
so tell me, how do you see, this as a key work that of yours, and more so, I know you are highly engaged in a beautiful project called Girls United by Love. So tell me, what is that, the ethos of women, their work and their worth?
Harriet Tubman is a excellent um, woman to tell her story and
Yeah.
emulate. But I want women today to recognize themselves in her
Mm,
strengths, what she brought to the table, where she came from. None of us today in this country, hopefully, are suffering under a system of being a slave, uneducated, not allowed to be educated, not allowed to have anything that belonged to herself.
mm,
Yet she had the inner strength. She was able to connect to her inner strength. And I say that she had the self-love that we all need, because there's no way that this young girl could become the woman she did if she didn't first love herself.
mm,
And so that's what my book is all about. My latest book is The Harriet Tubman Way. It's an inspirational guide
right.
to self-love, empowerment, and legendary leadership for girls. And so I'm in Dayton, Ohio, and here I have a beautiful committee who has launched or we're calling a movement, a Girls United by Love. And
Right.
so what we're doing here is to mentoring young girls 10 and up and helping them find the love in themselves. And we do this through some ongoing sessions where we talk about what I'm teaching in the Harriet Tubman stories, getting to know each other across town, that we all can support each other. And we celebrate we celebrate the International Day of the Girl Child, which is
Mm,
October 11th. And that's a United Nation celebration to look at how girls around the world need the support from each other. We need to spread our love. We need to help understand the need for education for girls. That everybody has that opportunity.
yeah.
and to celebrate what we do have, and in service to others. Servant leadership is another part
Yeah.
of what we teach and what's really important. So yeah, Harriet Tubman is a woman who, as a girl, found her passion to be a servant. And this is what sparked her leadership skills. And that's what I wanted to teach all the girls today.
Beautiful. And we celebrate you, in bringing that focus, and moreover, bringing that message to the marketplace, Girls United by Love. But even as we reflect on Harriet Tubman, we're talking to Karol Brown.
Yes.
Karol Brown, tell me, who is that girl? Because even as you're talking about, Girls United by Love, you were once that girl. And if you had the opportunity to speak to that girl, what advice, now that you know what you know, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are many people who are working in the space of, lifting up the voices of so many women.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, as you serve in this space of, talking about Brown Tones production, right? What would you say to that girl, now that you know what you know, right? In
Mm-hmm.
retrospect, what advice would you give her based on what you know right now?
Well, fortunately, as early as the seventh grade, I decided I'm a dietitian. That was my occupation.
Yeah.
And I had a challenge, or a whole class had a challenge to interview somebody in the occupation. And I interviewed a dietitian and found that's what I really enjoyed. And so I did go forth and do that. But I would say, to know that just whatever occupation you choose doesn't mean that's the only thing you have to do. If you find other things that you enjoy, and never stop learning, and finding ways that you can experience life. So now, it wasn't until, let's see, in my late 40s that I spread it out to do other things other than just the nutrition and teaching healthy eating and things like that. I started learning about how to teach stress management and public speaking by going to Toastmasters International and developing my speaking skills and storytelling. And just be open to exploring and not be afraid to try different things and new things. Always keep positive people around you so that you will never get those negative nannies that would say, no, you can't do that. You can do whatever you want to do. And so don't be afraid to try different things. That's what I
Beautiful.
would say.
Karol says it best, stay away from the negative nannies.
Yes.
So take us to a moment in your life where you probably would have faced that negative nanny. All right. It could have been your early professional career as a dietitian, or probably even now in the hard work that you do, with young women, with women. What was that moment that, if you hadn't pressed forward, your life would be unrecognizable today? You probably wouldn't even be sitting before me having this conversation. What was that thing, that person, that great challenge you faced, and how did you overcome it?
So I'm thinking back, and I can't really say what a trigger was, but when I decided that I wanted to write a book.
Okay.
So this is actually my second book. But so I have been studying Harriet Tubman, and I always knew I wanted some type of business.
Mm-hmm.
And the storytelling became my business.
Right.
So I would travel around Washington State and the Seattle, Washington area. Dayton is my home. My husband James and I moved to Seattle, Washington in '87. That's where I had my career as a dietitian most of the time, raised our children there. And that's where I picked up storytelling and Harriet Tubman. And by researching her, which I did very, very much anything I could read about her, I identified there's things that were missing. And the missing part was who she was as a woman, not just her information on what she did on the Underground Railroad, but who was this little girl that could do that? And so I felt like I needed to find the person behind the legend,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to share that. So that meant learning how to write a book, taking the time to take some writing classes, um, getting some help from some mentors. And that's very important. We can't do it all ourselves. We don't know everything. We need to find our mentors. Like the League of Experts is an excellent place to be, to find those support systems that can help us get where we want to do. So my first book was self-published, and I had a mentor that helped me do that. Her name was Linda
Mm-hmm.
Bede, and she walked me through the process, and I'm very proud of the outcome from that.
Mm.
But growing from there, the second book, I went to a publisher to help me with it, and I'm pleased with it too. But this is why I'm here today, is because I did reach out to find more support
Yes.
from those who know the business, know how to make your book what you want it to be, a
Yeah.
good book.
Yeah. You know, Karol, you're summing it up, in a favorite phrase of mine. You could go faster alone, but you can go further together. So
Definitely.
as you speak about the importance of collaboration and working together, how does storytelling really ignite that call or cause people to reimagine or just be a part of your world? Because obviously telling that story at its optimal level and unpacking that story requires collaborations and expertise. At the League of Experts, we talk about how do you create core intellectual property that speaks not just to your genius, not just to your expertise, but to the people who require your help, your solution, because you're solving a problem, you're creating a desire, you're providing a solution. So take us through, how you think about storytelling, because there are so many people who are listening on and they are like, okay, storytelling, I thought that's just something for school and, writing an essay, but why is that so important now? And that is not just a business for you, but it's a value exchange that you're opening up in the hearts of so many people. Because we know storytelling is a powerful tool for sharing information, connecting with others. But take us through some key pointers of what we should keep in mind when we are telling stories, and how is it important in our work that we do.
Well, you always want to remember who your audience is. Who are you speaking to? Because the story, when I do Harriet Tubman, is not the same for the lower grades as it is for the high school or adults. So your audience is very important. Your message, what is it you're trying to tell or teach through the story? Those things you want to have in your mind when you are putting together a story. And so you want to be able to relate. So hopefully what you're saying is relating to the person that you want. I loved Harriet Tubman. Actually, the reason I picked up Harriet Tubman was a story that she told. I watched a movie of Cicely Tyson doing A Woman Taught Moses many, many years ago. And I went researching the one story that I heard in there that just sparked my interest. And it was Harriet Tubman at a meeting where there was some discussion on what to do with all these free colored folks. Let's send them back to Africa. And Harriet Tubman didn't think that was a good idea. So she didn't jump up hollering and screaming. She told a story to get her message across. And it was a parable. So the parable was about a man who raised cattle, and that's where he made his money, selling the milk. And so he said himself, well, I need to make more milk. I don't want to buy more cows. So he knew that garlic and onions, if the cows ate those, they would produce more milk. So
Okay.
he planted garlic and onions, and the cows made more milk.
Wow.
But the people purchasing the milk didn't like the flavor of garlic and onion in their milk, so they wouldn't buy it anymore.
Right.
So he tried to reverse it. He plowed that up and planted the clover, but it was too late because that garlic and onion was rooted there. And so Harriet Tubman said, we're rooted here in this country. White man brought us here to do his work, his work. We built this country. We built the buildings. We planted the food. We took care of their babies next to our babies.
Yes.
This is our country. We live here and we're not going anywhere. And, you know, that story right there said it all. She didn't have to say any more to what her feelings were and how to express the importance to realize that us colored people, us Black people today, we're part of the American story. We're not just Black history. We are American history as well. So in a story, you can get a message across. And so that's why you tell stories.
What a powerful example, you know, even as you speak to the key aspects of storytelling. You're talking about understanding your audience, understanding what's the core message, even identifying your purpose, you know, what you want to achieve with this story. Is it to educate, to inspire, having a clear structure, using vivid language, and that was very key in the example that you just shared. You know, we're rooted here. So even as you're telling the story, I'm seeing the field and I'm seeing the farmer trying to fix, but it's too late.
It's too late.
We're rooted here. You know, so what a powerful example, you know, Karol, by you framing this discussion. And I hope it's inspiring so many of us as thought leaders, as consultants, as coaches, you know, wherever you are in your space. You know, one of the key gems that comes from telling your story, it exposes your authentic self. So yes, you might be in the boardroom, you know, you might be in corporate America, you know, but we've seen so many times the transformational experiences that many of our coaches, consultants, people who are just part of the space in the League of Experts, they're able to impact more. You know, I remember one of our clients, they were able to interweave their storytelling and be impactful, you know, in Bank of America. Like, come on, investors, they just want to talk numbers, right? But how they be able to be so inspiring, you know, to someone who's working in NASA, and they're able to bring these concepts in the space. So thank you so much, Karol, for reminding us of this, and more importantly, putting it in such an eloquent way.
Thank you.
You know, it's a joy. So as we close, we're at that time as we close, I want to ask you the question: what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out in the business world? You know, you talked about being a dietitian, and now you are in this space talking about brown tones and inspiring so many young women. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out, and what key questions they should place before them and answer them quicker, faster, and sooner, and save themselves time, effort, you know, money, heartache? Share with us as you guide us through this discussion.
I would first say do something that you really enjoy, because being in business for yourself is a commitment. Another thing that I would say, don't expect full-time results on a part-time effort. So I was always part-time. I'm retired now, so I can spend more time getting my business where I want it to be. The business has totally changed. I used to be going around presenting Harriet Tubman in costume as a 90-minute storytelling program. Now I'm all about using her stories and my own experiences to teach the lessons that I want to teach. So be willing to navigate change as you go. Again, get those mentors, learn the business, and get help. You know, I now have a virtual assistant, and I have a person that helps me with my media, social media, which is frightening to me. You know, that social media, but I understand now it wasn't there when I got started, but it's here now, and I've engaged in it and taken it on. And So just know that things are going to change along the way. Keep your thoughts positive. Thoughts become things. And so the positive thinking, the knowingness that you're going to make it, keep in mind what you want, your view of what you want it to look like, and enjoy the ride. I mean, it's all about the experience that we're having during the time we're getting where we want to go.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Karol. Thoughts are things. Keep your thoughts positive. And moreover, I want to, celebrate you for pushing past what you don't know. Because sometimes in business, you don't know what you don't know. And having the willingness, back to that first C, collaborate, get the people who could support you in the places that, you may have a competency gap, or I'm certain some of us, we're like, okay, I can learn it, but why not stay in your genius, right? By just delivering the content, being able to show up more boldly, serving others, and let other people stay in their genius to support your business so that you could do the things that you're called to do. So as we close, one final question to you, is leave us with one specific, your personal mantra that really helps you in the times where you maybe question yourself. Because one of the key objectives of the League of Experts is to really inspire, to motivate those who are on that journey of creating the core intellectual property that they have as they master their message, to connect to those who they know that they are called to see conversions. And when I use the term conversions, meaning people identify and say, hey, I need you in my life. I am making a conscious decision, what we call a non-negotiable. I'm no longer going to be negotiating on my goals. I'm no longer going to be negotiating on my dreams. And it confirms to those who are serving, hey, I'm not crazy. And what I'm doing, it matters and is worth the work. And finally, creating the type of community that is not just a moment, but it's a movement. So speak to us, speak to me, speak to the women who are out there looking on, listening on, and give them that what's your mantra that allows them to move through those seas of creation, connection, conversion, and community, and that their work does matter.
Their work does matter because they matter. We're all here to do something beautiful in life. And we all here uniquely to do our own beautiful thing. And so that's what's really, really, I keep in my mind. Even though I portray Harriet Tubman, tell her story, I do it in my way. There's many people portraying Harriet Tubman. I do it in my way. Do you. You have gifts. I believe in unity. I believe that we all have the Spirit of God within us. And if you have that powerful God within you, there's nothing you can't do. You just have to always believe in yourself and know that you're here the way you are here to be who you are and to contribute what your gifts are. So that would be the main thing, is to, you can admire you can learn from others, but it's you, like you're saying, you're your own mastery of who you are, your expressions, your way of communicating, what you contribute to the community in your own way. Everybody is like, if you think about a brick wall, every brick is unique. They're handmade, but they're all there and they're all needed. So we build together to make the strength of our community by bringing what you bring yourself, your strong purpose of yourself.
Thank you so much, Karol, for encouraging us and inspiring us about being our authentic self. We see it, within our league. You are called to create a unique sound in the earth. Your DNA, how you do what you do, will always be, God's special gift to the world. So
Right.
thank you for reminding us of that. If you guys want to continue this conversation and want to stay in connection with Karol, she can be found on LinkedIn. It's Karol Brown. That's Karol Brown. As we celebrate and thank you for the work that you're doing. And for those who want to continue that conversation, as she support girls, right? Showing that love, and more importantly, understanding the brilliance that she brings to the space. I love this. I love the name. It's Brown Tones Productions. Karol, thank you so much. And everyone, I hope you've had a valuable conversation. We are having these exclusive conversations within the League of Experts. If you want to continue this conversation, you can go to joinloe.com, joinloe.com. We're going to continue these courageous conversations as we support you to create, connect, convert, and create community around your thought leadership. My name is Emwale. Thank you so much, Karol, for being a part of the conversation. Talk to you soon, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate being here. Bye-bye.
Anytime. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.